Hey folks, over here once again. Welcome back to another review. I'll be enjoying my review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to Spider-Man Spider-Verse that came out in 2018. That is on my channel right now, and my Spider-Man reviews, and Marvel reviews, and super reviews. If y'all wanna, hear my thoughts on the first movie and the sequel. Anyway, guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Remember, it's Levi McNally 983. Probably can see right here a little bit on my tummy, on my new shirt, on my shirt, YouTube shirt. Yeah, see my YouTube shirt with a mask profile picture on it, with the Jim Carrey version movie. Not Son of the Mask. No, not that awful sequel. Anyway, what I've been doing, guys, on this channel is a superhero marathon. And again, thank you for the guys. I just want to thank you for 315 subs. Share my channel with your friends, family. I appreciate it. Or if you're just a simple movie buff like I am, definitely this is the channel for you. You know, if you like talking about movies and entertainment, TV shows, anything like that, or anything kind of. I like to do different videos as well. And I'm going to do that here on the future of this channel. Keep on doing different videos, like not just scenes from movies, but I like to do snack videos, my video game playthroughs. I will go back to do movie theater videos. I miss doing those. Our first reaction videos, those. It would kind of be what I go see movies. I made a list of new movies I go see. Then I do video, but that was on my other channel. So a lot of movies nowadays I'm not really interested in seeing that much. Sometimes, but but I definitely would like to maybe go back to that one day, eventually. Movie theater videos and stuff and those kind of videos. But anyway, what I've been doing on this channel now, I've been on a superhero marathon. And I've been on what I do call the 2020s era superhero reviews. These are the superhero movies that came out in this decade that we're living in now, starting with 2020 to 2025. And I am on the year 2023. I have reviewed already a couple of movies, and remember, I go by years and months. And well, this movie also like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This came out in June. The last movie that came out in June. This is a DC film. Yes, part of the DCU. This is the 13th film in the DCU, the DC Extended Universe. This film is directed by Andy Mashush, I can't say it, starring Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, and of course it's about the fastest man alive, and that is, and Michael Keaton starring his role as Batman, and that is The Flash, which I hated this film. I hated this movie. I'm not kidding. Anyway, this film is Blu-ray. You do get this one, the making of The Flash, Supergirl, and the return of Michael Keaton as Batman. Yeah, Michael Keaton does come back. I would say after 30 years, because his last time it was Batman that came out in 1989, directed by Tim Burton. And last time he played Batman was in Batman Returns. He was going to be Batman again in the Batgirl movie, but that got canceled. Probably for a good reason. I guess DC is seeing that their films, obviously this movie didn't do too well because it's a piece of shit, Didn't do well too at the box office. They probably said, nope, scrap it. In my opinion, this movie just sucked. I hated this film with a passion. I couldn't even barely get to this movie, y'all. I was falling asleep through it. It was so boring, so awful. I can't stand Ezra Miller as the Flash. I want to punch him every time I see him on screen. Now we had two Ezra Millers. We got yeah, you get two of them. And I'm sorry, Michael Keaton here. He's just in here for nostalgia. Honestly, I know they wore Batman Forever, Batman Robin with this movie, but I really watch those two. Those two are masterpieces, especially Batman Forever. Batman and Robin is campy, cheesy, but I can have fun with it. I'd rather just have George Clooney as Batman in the entire movie, like I do in Batman and Robin, and Chris O'Donnell. I'd rather have those two. And Mr. Freeze and his puns, you know. And Poison Ivy's love death spraying in my face. That's just more entertaining. I'd rather have Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. Though I do like Supergirl in this movie. I did like Sasha Cole, I think her name is. She was real good. Let's get into the review. So I didn't hate everything about this movie, but this movie was just a mess. I'll get to why. Anyway, let's get into production of the film. Yeah. Development of on a film based on the comic character The Flash began in the late 1980s. I mean, we didn't have Flash in the 80s, but we did have the TV show in the 1990s. Well, just 1990 after Batman 89, actually. Funny enough, that show took inspiration. It starred John Wesley Shipp, and it was a really good show. It was short-lived though, only had one season, not very many episodes. Then you had the 2014 show that came out, CW, starring Grant Gustin, which I like. Well, I like the first 3 seasons. The show, as it went on, with season 4, 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, 9, it became more crap. It became a bit woke in my opinion, and the show, the stories, and the CGI was bad. Yeah, but I do like Grant Gustin and I like John Wesley Shipp. They're better Flash than Ezra Miller, in my opinion. Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor in Smallville, he voiced the Flash in the Justice League cartoons, Justice League season 1 and 2, the Justice League cartoon show, and Justice League Unlimited. He's better. It may be Wally West, but still, he's better, a better Flash, in my opinion. But this film, been going on since the 1980s. Warner Brothers Pictures hired television writer Jeff Loeb to write a screenplay before DC Comics president James Gunn hired him to instead write a Bible for the comic book challengers of the comic books unknown. Yeah, yeah. After impressing Warner Brothers, which he script for the DC Comics based on the film Batman Begins, studio offered David S. Goyer the choice to work in a film featuring the Flash or Green Lantern. He was also primarily interested in one of them. Goyer chose the Flash due to the cinematic possibilities of the character and his abilities, and he was hired to write, direct, and produce a new version of the Flash in December 2004. Well, it said he ended up working with Marvel. Yeah. It was great. He did produce the Dark Knight trilogy, but he also produced, I believe, let's see. I'm sorry. Uh, one Van Damme movie that was Death Warrant, but I think the TV movie, let's see, has a television film. Well, he did produce the first Ghost Rider movie. I think he produced or worked on the screenplay for Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., starring David Hasselhoff. Yeah. And of course, he worked on Blade, and he directed Blade Trinity, which also is an awful movie. Purple City of Angels, he wrote the script for that as well. And like I said, the Dark Knight trilogy, which I'm not big on. And Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, which honestly sucked. This film still would have sucked. He wrote Dark Knight Rises, which I don't like. I like Man of Steel, Batman Superman. Terminator Dark Fate. Oh, he worked on that. Another. Yeah, he should stop making movies or stop working on films. He chose the Flash due to the abilities, but he was hired to write. But production, Glenn Harris was set to oversee the film's development of working on the Marvel Comics based film Blade Trinity by Warner Brothers' New Line Cinema. Goyer approached his Blade Trinity co-star Ryan Reynolds to portray the Wally West version of Flash. The character Barry Allen appeared in the supporting role for the film's tone. For the film's tone, I'm sorry. Goyer was influenced by director Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy and the Flash comic book runs. Inspired by the Greek mythology, apparently Wally West's use of super speed and the character being a screw-up. Reynolds met with Goyer to discuss the role in March 2005, but Goyer was writing the script. The director was having a dark themes. Reynolds said he would portray the Flash if Warner Brothers provided the film with a green lit. He never portrayed the Flash, but he did portray Green Lantern in 2001 film. I like that movie, sue me. And I like the director's cut of that movie too. I'd rather watch that than this. Goyer contracted the Flash with Batman, knowing he's not a vigilante. Doesn't have a secret identity and enjoys being a superhero. By June 2006, Goyer planned to direct the Flash as a follow-up to The Invisible. He had completed. I like that movie, The Invisible. Let's see. Oh yeah, I've seen that movie. Teen supernatural thriller film. I like that film. Watched it on Prime Video one time. I thought that was actually pretty good. Probably the best film I've seen him direct, in my opinion. He completed the first draft by early October, but quietly left the project or created differences with the studio. Goyer announced that he's exiting early from 2007, which I'm kind of glad he did direct. This movie still would have sucked anyway if he made it, because Blade Trinity sucked, so it wouldn't have been any better. Sean Levy was hired to direct, and over Sean Levy's directed some like Now the Museum movies. He directed some comedies as well. Yeah, like Cheaper by the Dozen, 1 and 2, Big Fat Liar, Just Married, comedy films. So I can't really see Sean Levy making a superhero movie. Maybe he could. I'd be curious to see how he'd make a Flash movie. It'd be maybe interesting. At least he knows how to do comedy. He does. Charles Robin and Alex Kent and Gardner joined as producers, with Levy also spared to produce in some captivity. Unlike his prior works, Levy did not intend for the film to be a comedy. He wanted to have a lighter tone than some of the prior DC films. Later that month, they announced the development of a Justice League film. Thunder. In August, Reynolds reaffirmed the Flash development was continuing alongside a Justice League film. George Miller signed on to direct the Justice League film, Justice League Mortal, that later that month. It was advanced at the start of the franchise with planned sequels and spin-offs. Filmed the Flash film. Levy left the Flash. Sean Levy left the Flash after 2007. Scheduled conflicts with not the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian. David Dubkin took over as director and began developing the film as a spin-off from Justice League, but it was soon reported that not connected to that film. Greg Wright was writing a show of the film days before the start of the 2007-2008 Writers Guild of America strike, which delayed further development of the film. December 2007, Adam Brody was cast in the Wally West version of The Flash for Justice League. In January 2008, Robin said that the work on the script for The Flash had already begun to take and would resume following the strike, but later said there's no script or writer. The Flash was listed as a project of production among other films then released in 2008, the same year as The Dark Knight came out. In late 2008, Johns was hired to consult the film as part of the strategy shift by Warner Brothers president Jeff Robinett to centralize control of Warner Brothers DC Comics. Johns wrote his film treatment that used elements of his script. Dan Masui adapted into the screenplay. In September, Robinett recruited DC Comics under a newly formed division of Warner Brothers, led by Diane Nielsen, as part of the strategy to reclaim oversight. Warner Brothers was planning a new, the pair had started work before August 2000, before Green Lantern was a critical version of Finals released in 2011. So instead, they worked on that film. Yeah. Warner Brothers was planning a new shared universe for films for 2013, which Man still came out that year. They were still involved in developing the film, also co-developing a television series for the CW about the character of the Flash, part of the Arrowverse, which I said came out in 2014, which I mentioned with Grant Gustin. I did talk about that show on my other channel. If you just put my name on YouTube and say Live Up McNally the Flash, you'll probably see my thoughts on the seasons and stuff. End of the 90s show too. And I did review the pilot. I'm talking about the 1990 TV series pilot, with John Wesley Shipp. Ezra Miller did, make appearances, cameo appearances, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Suicide Squad. Some in footage, and then him stopping Captain Boomerang. And he started the team up from Justice League, along with, Aquaman, of course, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Batman, and of course Superman. Warner Brothers offered James Wan the choice of directing a film about either Aquaman or the Flash, so he chose to make Aquaman instead, which came out in 2018. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were writing story treatment for the Flash, directing it. They decided to direct a Star Wars story, a Star Wars story, which I don't really care to see. Yeah, like the past history of Han Solo. Who cares? There's only one Han Solo. To me, that's Harrison Ford. But then, the DC Universe animated movies, they had Just Leave the Flash One Paradise, which is a better movie than this. That came out in 2014. Jay Olivia, a storyboard artist on several DC animated films, as well as CW series. Yeah, that would have been cool if he would have worked on it. Jay Olivia, yeah, he's done some good DC stuff with DC. Like I've been saying, DCU with the Warner Bros. Shit, and they got some of the people that worked on DC animated movies to do live action. DCU could have been a big, huge movies like Marvel nowadays. After the decisive reception, though, of Batman vs Superman, Warner Brothers sought to stabilize the direction of the DCU. The studio recognized to have general responsible film executives, but the studio's DC started trying too fast. Well, John Francis Daly was going to be part of it. He was a Sam Weir on Freaks and Geeks. But Rick Fenora was hired to take over as director in June 2016. The related vision of the film would resonate with younger audiences and also be played with Graham Smith's existing script. Filming was expected to begin later in 2016. Film is top choice to portray the character Iris West, Barry Allen's love interest, Tracy Simmons, who worked with him on Dope. Rita Ora and Lucy Button were also running for the role. But Clemens recast the character at the end of July. At the time, Warner Bros. Gave the film's release date to Tomb Raider, leaving The Flash without a release date. Ray Fisher was set to appear in the film, restoring his role as Victor Stone in Batman v Superman. I guess he had his own movie, which never happened. Gal Gadot was set to respire her role as Diana Prince Wonder Woman from Batman v Superman. Billy Cobra portrayed Barry's father, Henry Allen. He doesn't in this movie, and he was the guy I believe that played Billy Cord. Yeah, he played Doctor Manhattan in Watchmen from 2009. Better movie than this. It's long, but it's really good. Pre-production began by October 2016, ahead of filming starting in 2017. Before another commitment that Ezra had in July. Olivia and Femna worked together for 6 to 7 months that way. They planned for the character Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, to serve as the background antagonist, before being revealed as the main antagonist of the DCU and the adaptation DC anime universe, Justice League Unlimited, in the Flashpoint Paradox. And then October Friday, which left the project, could not, which they disagreed, the more mature the direction that he wanted to take the film. The film was put on hold with the search for a new director. Miller prepared to film Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and held the chance to work reshoots on Wonder Woman. During that time, Warner Brothers decided to take the film in a new direction. Schaefer Howard was hired to perform a page-one rewrite of the script. The tender draft I made when serious choices to direct the film were Robert Zemeckis, who's directed films like the Back to the Future movies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They do mention Back to the Future in this movie, though. Yeah, and Matthew Vaughn, who I believe directed X-Men First Class, which is just as bad as this, in my opinion. Both expressed interest in the project, but had potential scheduling issues on the cut that could prevent them. Mark Webb, Jordan Peele, and Ben Affleck portrayed Batman. They already turned down the opportunity to direct the film. Ben Affleck should direct his own Batman movie. Mark Webb directed the Amazing Spider-Man films, which I do like. I'd rather watch those over this. Jordan Peele, I like Get Out. That's a good movie. Yeah. The film was announced with a new title, Flashpoint, based on the 2000 comic book storyline. Challenge Charles right in time to save his mother's life, creates an alternative timeline, which we've seen before in Just Leave the Flashpoint Paradox. Now they're going to do it in this movie. They've allowed him to tell a unique story about Batman, but the comic book storyline, timeline where Thomas Wayne is Batman. Again, in Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. Sorry, I thought the camera was messing up. It is thundering a little bit out there. It was raining a bit too. Still thundering a little bit. Or maybe I'll get struck by lightning and have powers like the Flash. And maybe go back in time and stop this movie from happening. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. The show's not ready for Zemeckis' schedule to be free. Warner Brothers approached the duo about working on DC, do their work with the studio in the film Game Night, as well as MCU Spider-Man Homecoming. Daly and Golston ready for several scripts for selecting Flashpoint. The fans of the Flash character, they pitched the Flash as a grounded superhero just learning his powers. Do continue through February. They were confirmed as directors in March. Filming was scheduled to begin in Atlanta, Georgia in February or March 2019. Miller was revealed to be writing a new version of the film script. Miller was not pleased with the early drafts, disagreed with the latter approach to the film that Daly and Ghoster were taking, although that Warner Bros. Preferred direction for the film. They friendly approached Morrison and their ideas. Morrison described the script as a science fiction Flash story, similar to Back to the Future, with dark aspects related to the Flashpoint story, but did not have a dark tone. The new script could be submitted to the studio by the end of the month. The studio did not like Miller and Morrison's take. Daly Colton led the project to go work on Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves instead. The deal exit was confirmed by the following month when Warner Brothers chose Christina Hodgson to write a new screenplay for the script, after she wrote its DCU film Birds of Prey, which was set to write another DCU film, Batgirl. Which thank God that didn't happen, she would have screwed that up too. Andy Muschietti in negotiations to direct The Flash with his sister Barbara, going to produce. Muschietti intended The Flash to be his next project after taking a short break from only Chapter 2. He did intend for the film to have a horror element to describe as take his fun, emotional, beautiful human story. The Flash was being written around this time. Jim Lee approached Miller about appearing alongside Grant Gustin in Flash and Arrowverse in that franchise television crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I saw back when that came out. Yeah, he does have a little cameo in there with him, which is decent. Much has said the film would still adapt elements of the Flash of a comic book storyline. This has allowed for Batman to be featured in the film, as comic focuses on time travel with the Flash's origin story. Flashpoint commented the horror film Jacob Flatter for its structure and film's version of the comic book story to be a suspense film because of its build-up. Felt that Flash's prior appearances in DCU provided the audience with a greater understanding of the character, allowed for a more emotional experience and story to be told. Though the film probably did get delayed because of COVID-19. Film was set to move forward June 3rd, 2022. Michael Keaton entered negotiations. Michael Keaton, well, they say played Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, and Batman Returns. Chris Pratt here's a role. The Flash was set to disregard the other Batman films, Batman Forever, Batman Robin, the multiverse of the DCU. Keaton's version of the character from an alternate universe Barry creates in the film. Filming was to begin in the first quarter of 2021, depending on COVID-19 protocols. Fisher discusses the role of Cyborg in the film that month before Warner Brothers set 2 weeks for Fisher to film. Fisher said the studio only paid him a fraction of his scheduled salary for spying the role, but he doesn't. And Affleck agreed to spy his version of Batman. He does in this movie. I think they asked Christian Bale, I believe. From what I heard, they might have. I could be wrong, but Christian Bale, who was played Batman, they're not trilogy. Good for Christian Bale though. I'm happy that he didn't come in this movie. Now I might not be big on his Batman, but I'm proud of him for not doing this movie. He didn't have to waste his time being in this crappy film, just making a cameo. Oh, spoiler alert! Speaking of Batman and Robin, even though they avoid that, George Clooney. Spoiler alert! George Clooney had the cameo at the end of the movie. This is spoiler free for you. Keaton's Batman would not work without first seeing the Flash relationship with Affleck's Batman. Affleck chose retiring from the role because he would have a smaller role in the film. During the virtual DC Fan Dialogue Explorer, Barbara Mustard said the film would feature many characters from DC Universe and serve as bridges between them and their different timelines. She added the rest of the film would be used to restart the continuity of the DCU. Cordell would let the film during the change in directors, rejoin the project a month later. The film's release date was pushed back November 4th, 2022, due to furthermore delays because of COVID. They kept on delaying the movie as well. Warner Bros. Has Cyborg written out of the film, and officially refused to work on the project involving him now or something. I guess he had a bad time on the Justice League movie. He probably just didn't want to come back. And they were going to pay much of a salary, so I don't blame him. They maybe gave him a script, or he was just saying, this movie's probably going to suck anyway. With the production creating a life-size replica of the Batcave from scratch by the Batmobile used in Keaton's film, we transported the set from Los Angeles using an airport cargo truck. Sasha Cole was cast as co-star Supergirl in late February 21. Which one? Cole was chosen from a group of more than 425 actresses, including Bruno Muschi, Rachel Zegler, who were later cast in DCU as Jenny Cord and Blue Beetle, and Athena from Shazam: Fury of the Gods. All auditions for the role test with Miller took place over Zoom. At that time, Cord was confirmed to be returning as Henry Allen, but was forced to drop out of the film that following month. Other actors cast as Ian Loth as young Barry Allen, Saoirse McGuinness Jackson as Patty Spivot. At the end of the month, Keaton said he received an older version of the script but had not yet read it. He would have to read the last draft deciding if he would commit to the film. He also said that the COVID-19 pandemic UK for his involvement. There was a picture of Keaton, as Bruce Wayne with a cut face when Selena Kyle cut him in the face in Batman Returns when she slashed him in the face. Toward the climax of that movie, Batman Returns, I mean. Keaton would have, the team formed the professionally double dream to co-produce the film. Fisher said he would be disappointed if the situation surrounding his involvement in the film was not resolved. That he was open to return to Cyborg the film if Warner Bros. Were to make amends with him. Filming began on April 19, 2021, by titled Baby Shower. Henry Bam served as cinematographer after previously working on DC's The Suicide Squad. While filming with the Batmobile occurred in George Square, it was temporarily halted after a camera operator shooting behind the Batcycle Street collided with its near West George Street. Keaton finished filming his scenes by mid-August. Michael Shannon also was in Latino children was set to star their roles as General Zod and Furio. Daly and Goldstein, co-writers of the film, were also confirmed to be receiving the story credit for the film alongside Hutchins. Timur Morrison, who portrayed Aquaman's father, Thomas Curry, did have a cameo in the movie. Warner Brothers adjusted the schedule due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Flash was moved to June 23rd to provide more time for visual effects. The Flash had around 2,500 visual effects shots. I'm just reading here a little bit. Following several incidents and arrests involving the original throughout 2022, various options of the film are still hoping that delaying its release would help avoid controversy. In August, Warner Brothers was considering three options: provide Miller with an interview explaining their behavior, the limited press for the film, refuse to accept professional help with the film being released as planned, or Miller from all press for the film would cast the character projects, and should they choose to reject professional help, cancel the film as a last resort. If the situation further deteriorated, they should have they should have canceled the film and redo it and have somebody else and redo everything. You know. They nearly complete though. Batgirl was being produced for streaming service HBO Max, so Batgirl got canceled, like I said. Yeah. Miller released a public apology soon afterward and announced that they were seeking personal treatment for his mental health issues. Yeah. The ending of the film, which featured Miller's Barry believing he wrote the time before realizing it has been further altered multiple times during post scenes. The original final ending featured how Supergirl Keaton's Batman, reversing their characters' deaths from earlier in the film. Yeah, Gal Gadot does have a cameo, but Henry Cavill, I guess, chose not to do it. Because again, Black Adam didn't do very well either at the box office. Cavill's Obama wrote alongside with Jason Momoa, who does have a cameo in the scene. Actors, yeah, the late George Reeves as Superman, but in really bad CGI form. Christopher Reeve, Nicolas Cage as the Tim Burton Superman, the Death of Superman, and George Clooney and Adam West. Michael Shannon, yeah. They arranged for George Clooney to reprise his role as Batman from Batman and Robin, placing Apple's version in the timeline, their version of the ending. That day came after a recurring joke was made during production that Batman versus Batman could be included in. Clooney agreed to join the project after he was telling the agent were showing mostly which they probably paid him good money. Clooney filmed his scenes with Miller for half a day, which was quick and effect shot. Miller received advice from Clooney on handling publicity and his behavior between takes. Miller was said to have been in top form. The ending was Clooney kept a secret until the film's release. Linda Carter does not have a cameo in here. Marlon Brando's version married the Penguin, Superman's Joker from the series Batman, and Grant Gustin's Barry Allen. This was not supposed to appear in the film. I guess it was in like, well, these actors, Marlon Brando's passed away. Where's Meredith? Superman, they've all passed away. It's creepy. It's pretty scary. It's really creepy here that you're bringing actors who have died from a long time ago, passed away, and you're adding them in here in CGI. I'm like, more like you're insulting their memories, if you ask me. You do Chris Reeve as Superman in here. I'm like, well, just Cameron and West. I'm like, which they enjoyed, which all three of them have died. Except Helen said she's still living, but yeah. Benjamin Wallfish was said to do the music for the film. I don't remember much marketing for the movie except the trailer. The biggest thing that we had this trailer going for was Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman. I think that's why most people wanted to see this movie. Yeah. The film got mixed reviews from critics who praised its humor, actually some performance, but criticized the visual effects and third act. It was also a box office bomb, grossing $270.74 million against a budget of $220 million worldwide. Budget, it flopped because it sucked. But you have Ezra Miller as Barry on the Flash, he plays forensic scientist, investigator, Professor City, a member of the Justice League who can move over his superhuman speed using the Speed Force. Don't like him as an actor. Yeah, I remember seeing that video of him choking a woman. He's done some crazy things that he should be in jail for. Shouldn't have done this movie at all. Jerry's got mental issues. You assault people, you threaten people, you hit people, you're gonna go to jail. Yeah, he's done a lot of things that he should be in jail for. I think. Yeah, Yeah, but of course he was in the first cameo by every Superman and just great cameo as Flash. And of course Justice League Snyder Cut. Yeah, obviously he's doing any movies after this. Haha, why? Because this film flopped so bad. Nobody wanted to see him and his legal troubles. Nobody wanted to work with him. Sasha Cole as Horace O'Reilly Supergirl. And again, I liked her. I thought she actually did a good job. I do want to see the new Supergirl. Oh, she's very beautiful too, I think. 29. But I thought she was good here in the Flash. She deserved to have her own Supergirl movie, I think. Michael Shannon returns to General Zod, who I like Michael Shannon. Uh, one of his earlier roles, I think. Let's see. He was in Groundhog Day playing Fred. Yeah, I remember him in that. He was in 8 Mile, Bad Boys 2. I think I remember him in Bad Boys 2. Jonah Hex. Yeah, I think I remember one in maybe one part at least. But of course, he's responsible for Man of Steel, playing General Zod again. Ron Livingston has Ernie Allen, Barry's father. I prefer the other actor, Bill Billy Crudup, as the character. Can't think I've seen this guy in any other movies. Then you had Marty Phillips as Nora Allen, Barry's mother. She was alright. Mm. Terry Kamash as Iris West. I did not really care for her too much, to be honest. She was in Neighbors 2, and of course that Snyder's Justice League when Barry like saved her from a car crash. Yeah, I still prefer Candace Button from the last 2014 show. Yeah, she was a lot more beautiful and more funny and good. And Vera, returning in General's second command, also I believe his wife. Michael Keaton returns as Bruce Wayne Batman. A wealthy socialite from Gotham City who moonlights as a crime fighting vigilante. Surprised from Batman 89 and Batman Returns. Yeah. I said, Ben Affleck does have a small part in here, George Clooney does, which I'll get to later. I'll bitch about it later. Not right now. Yeah, Jeremy Irons, of course, coming back as Alfred Pennyworth. You know, you don't get Michael Gough because Michael Gough's passed away by now. Many years ago he passed. Gal Gadot does and Jason Momoa do credit appearances as a Wonder Woman and Aquaman. And of course, Cameron Morrison, who you probably know from the Star Wars films like the Jango Fett, yeah, and working in Star Wars, yeah. Henry Cavill, you don't see him in CGI form though. Well, Cavill did film additional scenes in this movie for his character, but they were removed during post production. Jerry Courtney appears in DC role from his Captain Boomerang, but like I said, in CGI form. The other portrays that Superman fighting a giant spider from Superman Lives. I mean, you know, which I think that'd be a more interesting movie. Then you have George Reeves, like I said, Christopher Reeve, which is all creepy. You know, but the film is directed by Andy Musch, who I've never heard of before. Yeah, he directed It Chapter 2, and I'm like, those It movies with Bill Sigard, who again was in The Crew, which I don't like Bill Sigard as an actor. I don't care to see those It movies anyway. If you want to watch it, I'll just watch one with Tim Curry. Yeah, and a movie called Mama, which, oh, no, I've never seen that movie. Yeah, you're not that great of a director, dude. Don't direct a superhero movie again, because you can't do it well. And screenplays by Christine Hodson. Hodson. Oh, good. Yeah, let's see. She did the script for Birds of Prey. Yeah, which is also part of the DCU. Yeah, the movie star Mark Robert, who I do not like as Harley Quinn. That film was woke. That movie was, men are awful and men are terrible. It's a man-hating film. You know, the only good movie she worked on was Bumblebee, and that was it. Yeah, this film has pretty much what 4 writers on it. Yeah, that is John Francis Daly, well, who did work on Freaks and Geeks. This is Sam Weir in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Oh, that's funny. Well, yeah, because Martin Short was in that movie as a teacher, and they worked on Freaks and Geeks together. Creation 2015, which I wasn't a fan of. Uh, and a Minecraft movie. Well, it says he. Well, no, he didn't really work. Well, he might have, but he's uncredited. Jonathan Goldstein also did the story for the movie. You didn't really need to be writers for this film. Horrible Bosses, The Incredible Mr. Bart Woodstone. Horrible Bosses 2, Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie, a Minecraft movie. Joby Harold. Edge of Tomorrow. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. I think that movie flopped. John Wick 3, Chapter 3, Propel Him. Transformers, Rise of the Beast. Novak, or whatever you want to call it. Based on characters from DC. Produced by Barbara Michelle, who's the director's wife. She's the first It movie in Chapter 2. And they're doing a TV show. It involving a dairy or something like that. Cinematography by Henry Bram. The film does have some nice cinematography, though. I'll give it that. He did it for Flyboy. He did cinematography for films like Crush, Bright Young Things, Nanny McPhee, Flyboys, The Golden Compass, The Legend of Tarzan for 2016, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which have beautiful cinematography in them. This films look good. The Roadhouse remake and the new Superman film directed by James Gunn, edited by Jason Bolton, who edited films like Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, which have better action scenes than this. You know, It Chapter 2, The Flash, The Crow remake, Bellum, which is I think the John Wick spinoff, which I don't really care to see. Paul Michelle, I can't say his name right. Star Poker Face of the World. He also did the editing for films like The World's End, Man Up, Baby Driver, The Running Man remake, whatever I'm calling it a remake. Music's by Benjamin Wallfish. The music covers like Blade Runner 2049 Shazam, the the first Shazam movie, which has good music. It Chapter 2, The Invisible Man, Twisters, distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. It was released June 16th, 2023. It's 144. The film is 144 minutes long. About oh, about 2 hours and 24 minutes long. Yes. The budget is 200. Sorry, 200 $220 million worldwide. The film only made $271.4 million. So didn't really make much money as expected. Yeah. But the film is considered a box office flop. Such as Miller's legal issues, but it's not just that. It's just the film sucked and bringing Michael Keaton back just as nostalgia bait. Come on, folks. You know, that's the reason people are going to see this movie. They don't care seeing a Flash movie. Yeah. Anyway, let me get to the story. So, like I said, with the story, it is it goes with the Flashpoint story. In the comics, I believe Barry Allen, Flash, goes back in time to save his mom, Nora Allen, who was murdered, and his father, Henry Allen, gets accused of murdering her, of killing his wife, and Barry became a forensic scientist, therefore got struck by lightning, therefore became the Flash, a superhero, but he wants to go save his mom, and doing that has devastating consequences. He can use the Speed Force. He can run so fast. Flash can run so fast enough to do that with his super speed. But it has devastating consequences for him. Yeah. Anyway, with the plot of this movie, the story of the Flash, the 2023 film, is that worlds collide when the Flash, aka Barry Allen, the Flash, uses his superpowers to travel back in time to change the events of the past to save his mom. However, when his attempt to save his family alters the future, he becomes trapped in reality in which General Zod has returned. Zod, played by Michael Shannon again, whose goal was to recreate Krypton by killing thousands of people, by killing billions on the Earth to make Krypton live again. And Superman, of course, has stopped Superman, snapped his neck and killed him, and now he's back because Barry, messed with the timeline, threatening annihilation. But no other superhero to turn to. The Flash X-Ray Coex, a very different Batman, out of retirement, that is Michael Keaton, goes to him for help, along with another version of himself from the past, from this turn timeline, to help this Barry Allen, this alternative Barry Allen, get his powers too. And they must rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian, that is Cora, aka Supergirl. And so what they must do is they must all these four must team up and save the world. And along with Batman, Barry must also go back, change timeline, go back to the way things were, and has to save the universe from and the world, this universe from being destroyed by Zod. And one Superhero has to stop them, and they have to save the day, and he has to go back, change the timeline, learning that you can't mess, learning that you can't mess with things sometimes. Not everything is meant. You can't change things. Yeah, you can't fix everything, as Barry learns. So that's the plot for you. There will be spoilers in this review. We'll go to you that now. Oh, and they also had toys out for the movie too. Yeah. The bit of the dark flash in the movie. Yeah. They did have commercials though. Yeah. Some toys for the movie. They said I don't remember too much marketing for the film, except Michael Keaton being Batman. Anyway, we'll talk about the movie itself, and I'll give you my final thoughts. This is gonna be a rant because I hated this film. Excuse the pun, but this film felt really rushed. It felt like they really just ran into a brick wall with this movie. And again, there's no sequel now since the DCU got canceled. I think the last one actually was, let's see, sorry, so let me look this up really quick. It's the 13th film, DC Extended Universe. Yeah, the last one pretty much was Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom because that didn't do well at the box office. Yeah, neither did, I like Black Adam. Yeah, but they kind of had to redo everything because of the way this film flopped. You yeah. I do like Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I saw that in theaters, but I didn't see this. But that film would not come out till December. Yeah, that film will not come out till December. So I'm gonna talk about the movie itself. Give my final thoughts of why I hate this film. Like I said, this film is just aggravating. That's what this movie is. Is aggravating. It's frustrating just to watch. It's boring. I couldn't get through it really enough. You know, I was kind of hoping this film would just rush to be over with. I was like, yeah, yeah. No, I don't. Okay, but we'll talk. Go ahead and talk about the movie itself. All right, so the Flash. So the movie opens up with, one of those logo DC logo, and colors of the Flash, which is red. Yeah, yeah. It opens up with Barry being at a coffee shop and talking to this guy's like, "Where's the girl?" Because of his metabolism and stuff, he needs to eat food or drink a lot just to get energy for his body, for his powers, and he has to be at work. And the guy's, running his mouth off about, I don't know, he's just blabbing off, which I thought was annoying. And Barry gets a call from Alfred, Jeremy Irons, telling him that, you know, Batman needs him, that Batman couldn't call Superman because Superman's off world, Superman's busy, and Wonder Woman's busy as well. She does show up a little later, though. And there'll be spoilers in here as well. So if you've never seen The Flash, don't watch this review. And God bless you, if you, bless you if you have not seen this movie. Good luck if you do. But of course, Flash's like, okay, I'll help. Runs to the bathroom, gets his suit on, gets ready to take off, and then these girls say, "Hi," I'm like, "Oh, hi, hi, I didn't know to talk to you." No. And all he does is run his mouth, and every time he opens his mouth, I couldn't stand him. These girls, they throw like a food at him. He's like, throw the candy bar. I catch you real quick. Doesn't work. He runs, and the CGI when he's running is awful. It is cool. I'll admit, it is cool to see the Flash run, but the CGI is not very good. He gets there. You see Batman in his Batcycle, which I like seeing Ben Affleck one more time as Batman. I wish, still, if he had a chance, I'd like to see him get his own solo Batman movie. Apparently, these guys were doing a robbery, and he's on the Batwing. He gets on his Batcycle, chases them down. People are like, "Whoa, that's cool!" And he's blocking them with his guns from the bear. He's like, "Yeah, I need a key. these immature kids that need help, and Batman to save them. You know, Barry saves these people in the hospital from being crushed into a black hole. And the film where you have the awful CGI babies. Oh my gosh! You pause long, you see terrible, terrible CGI. He puts a baby in a microwave. He punches a vending machine, and then grabs a taco. And I'm like, you're the Flash. Can you just run by that coffee shop, put money in, and take coffee? I'm not saying he's a thief, calling him a thief, but you know, Grant Gustin's character, the Flash character, did that sometimes. Just run to go get coffee when he needed it. He didn't say, "Oh, I'm just gonna stop." No, Flash could just go ahead and just grab it like that. But no, they're just trying to throw this stupid humor in it because Christian Hudson's writing. The writers of this film think that's funny, and I'm like, a CGI baby in a microwave saves the people, and this lady's like, "Shut up," He's like, "You're probably going to need intense therapy." And then he runs to go help Bruce and Batman. I do like the moment where they shoot out like a tank and Batman flies out of this bat cycle off the bat cycle, uses the bat grapple, punches one guy, which is pretty cool to see though for those minutes. It's short lived, but it's cool. And one guy, the driver sees him, and Batman's like, he's like, the truck. I thought that was funny. Um, they can't let this poison stuff or whatever, go into these chemicals go into the water because it would damage Gotham City. And Wonder Woman comes up. It's good to see Gal Gadot still looks beautiful, by the way. She had a cameo on Shazam as well. And although this won't be her last time, they should not recast these two. These two, Ben Affleck and as good as Batman. They should, of course, keep him. One of them saves him. She's like, "Nice suit, Flash," and he's like, "Thank you, thanks." Batman has just a last of truth. Kind of like, oh, I don't think so. Thankful, whatever. Batman, when Batman was talking, it was funny. But when Flash says, "I've never experienced sex before. I know about it, but I never had it before." And I was kidding about the whole sex thing, and I thought that was annoying. Anyway, Batman talks to Alfred's like, "I'm gonna come home and eat some breakfast." Alfred, bad guy tries to run away, and Batman uses the batarang, like throws the batarang inside and hits the guy in the head, which I thought was funny. Yeah. And Barry goes to the guy. He's like, "Is that fast enough for you?" He gets his drink, goes to work. His boss gets on to him about being late. He's like, "Go get me some coffee, Barry." Barry's doing his job being a forensic scientist, trying to find stuff about his father. He has these friends, but these two friends, this girl and guy, they're annoying. He also meets Irish West, which they have no chemistry whatsoever. She's asking about his father, and he's like, "Well, his father didn't murder his mother." And people do believe that Henry Allen did commit this murder, but he's trying to say he didn't. Yeah. Barry goes home. He calls his dad from jail. Never talked to him. He goes and flash. He goes to his own home. You see a bit of his past with his mom. She's like kind of Mexican. The actress is fine, I guess, but I prefer the other actors in the show. And doing the Flashpoint stories is what I have a problem with. It worked in Justice League the Flashpoint Paradox, but when you're the thing is with the Wonder Woman movie, the Aquaman film, with these characters, you had a backstory, you had an origin story. You need to have an origin story for the character. They should have redone this movie. They should have, recast the Flash character, made it a better actor do it, and retell the story. You know, because when you have a superhero movie, you need to tell a good story. In this film, I've seen the Flashpoint Paradox done before in the animated movie that was done better. Doing it in here just did not work for me. Yeah, people say, "Oh, the suit looks cool." Okay, it kind of looks cool. I'll admit, this suit does look cool. I just don't like this Flash character in this movie. This is the worst actor ever to play Flash. This is the worst Flash I've ever seen. Yeah, at least in Justice League, to me, Justice League: The Flash from Paradise, that's a better Flash movie than this. You want a better Flash movie? Go watch that from 2013. It's called Justice League: The Flash from Paradise. I reviewed that on my channel here, my new channel here. It's a better film. The suit's more cooler, and it's got better action. At least reverse flashes in it, and that had some of Flash's villains as well. Better film than this. But in here, yeah, Barry goes to his house. He remembers when his mom dies, and him as a kid, little 8-year-old boy, I would say 8. Barry's probably 8 or 10 or something like that, running out. Barry just watching himself, and Barry kind of goes back in time, and It's like a little time bubble, if you will, of characters. You know, you see awful CGI, and he looks back in time. He goes back to the day before when he saved those CGI babies and CGI dog, and yeah, he tells Bruce about it. He's like, Bruce, he's like, you know, I could go back in time to save my parents, but we're not meant to do that, Barry. These scars, they make us who we are. It defines us, you know. And Barry's like, well, it's okay, I can change things. Like, no, you can't change things. Barry, you're gonna screw it up. He's like, you could also destroy something too. You could ruin something. You know, basically telling Barry that you can ruin something. We're not meant to mess with time. We're not gods. You know, we live with our scars. Just again, Bruce lost his parents. Can't go back in time and save them. Can't change what is. Can't change the past. You know, and it could have consequences. Yeah, but Barry ignores his warnings and instead, you know, just change time. You know, brings it back again. Change time ends up in this other speedster punches him. I thought it was a time wrap. In the 2014 show, it would be a time wrap, which the speedsters would use the Speed Force. These time wraps, like, are demons almost. They would come after you, kind of like to put you in their jail, or whatever. In the Speed Force, I like what the 2014 series did. Like the Speed Force could be like a prison for some speedsters who broke the law, the laws of the Speed Force of you know of changing time. But it wasn't. You find out, a spoiler, it's a Flash later. But Barry ends up in the 2013, where his mom was alive. He changes his out of his Flash suit, wearing this old lady's clothes, and sees his mom is eating with them. He sees this 2013 Barry himself, and we get another Ezra Miller here. This 2013 Barry showing up. He says, "Oh shit! Oh, I have to go shit. I'm gonna go shit outside privately." And I'm like, stupid. And he knocks his Barry out. He, tells him, Barry tells the 2013 Barry, the past Barry, whatever, of who he is, that he's the Flash. You know, plays around with his powers, but he's like, "Hey, you like that, huh?" And he hears the rain coming, which was just rain outside, and it was September 25th, the day he got his powers. Yeah, Barry and his room stuff. They go to the Central City Police Department. They think that he uses, Barry with his powers. I forgot to mention earlier. Iris comes to visit him in his apartment. He tries to fix it up, but doesn't do it well. Yeah, he doesn't have any beers in his fridge, so he goes to the neighbor's door next door and literally steals their beer. So Barry's a thief. He's a superhero, but he's a thief too. He just goes around using his powers to steal, huh? Thief. Anyway, back to saving his mom. Well, I forgot. It's a can of beans. Yes. Apparently, his mom forgot a can of beans. His dad goes back and she gets murdered. Then his dad got accused of it. His dad's not looking up on the camera, so they couldn't prove it. Um, so therefore, they get the can of beans, just ruin their lives, and that's how it happened. Barry, being the Flash, is able to put the cans back, and that's when he's here already. So him and his time self, he has to make sure that his 2013 version does become the superhero he's meant to be. He phases through do it. They do electricity. Bad CGI. Barry's tooth falls out and ends up in 2013 Barry's mouth. Yeah, it strikes them both. 2013 Barry gets up at the 2023 Barry, the Barry of now, future Barry. He loses his powers. Yeah, and this Barry he runs. Yes, this movie does show some partial nudity a little bit because the 2013 Barry, is like, hey, I get to run real fast. He uses the Speed Force. He's just running real quick and his clothes are burning and he's naked, causes a wreck, causes an accident. And he starts to eat fast, eat broccoli, but runs his mouth out. That felt great. Oh my god, motor mouth, because he never shuts the hell up. He phases through the floor and ends up naked in front of his neighbor, having to cover his nuts, and I'm like, ugh. So Barry has a train 2013 Barry on how to use his powers. Here's the suit in the, which you do like the suits in the ring, but the Barry doesn't put it on. They talk about Back to the Future. Eric Stoltz is the back in their version is in Back to the Future, stars in it, even though Michael J. Fox really does. In this version, he changed that, and Eric Stoltz stars in it. Eric Stoltz was originally did star in the movie, but got out of it. Michael Keaton, Michael J. Fox came into it. Then they see a broadcast by General Zod, and Barry's like, "Oh no, what have I done? There's no Superman here." They try to go to his friend's apartment. His friends are annoying. They're just irritating people. And some of his friends from the past are like friends, but they don't know who this Barry is. He calls Arthur Curry's father Thomas Curry. He's like, "You didn't fall in love with the woman that came from the sea." He's like, "No." He's like, "Get off my phone, weirdo." Hangs up on him. He's dating this woman that's like overweight or whatever. Okay. And there is no Bridget Stone's alive, but he's not Cyborg yet, and there is no Superman. You know, there's only a Batman. So he figures, gotta go to Batman Forever. He's gonna stop Zod, but he needs the help of Kryptonian or another hero that can help him, like Batman, because the Barry doesn't know how to use his powers yet. Yeah. He also tells him that he tried to save. He was there that day, but his suit, which looks ridiculous, you know, he looks like a hockey reject from hell. And I'm just kidding. See the hockey team from hell. He doesn't have a Batman versus Robin. Yeah, he looks like he looks bad. Like a hockey reject on this stupid suit. Trying to save this little boy, but couldn't save his father. That Barry didn't know how to use his powers then. That's when he had blue lightning. So he can't locate the other ones. So they travel to White Manor. They do find Bruce in turn version. That is, of course, they find Michael Keaton, and Keaton like sneaks up on them and attacks them, tries to fight with them, but they use their Barry uses Speed Force power to kind of knock him out. And he's like, so Michael Keaton just was old and out of shape. You find out that he retired because they killed the kid right in front of him, killed the bad guy right in front of him. Even though I think in Batman Returns he stopped killing. Yeah, Batman does kill in the comics, did earlier when he started, but when he kept on going, he stopped doing that. You know. But in this movie, he quit being Batman. He's depressed. I get the Batman's a dark, depressing character. Batman just doesn't give up. I don't see Michael Keaton's Batman just hanging up the cowl like that. But in this movie, always got the beard, the mustache. He's a bit of a prick too. Doesn't want to be Batman anymore. Oh, Batman has to explain things in spaghetti about the timeline. All he does is cook spaghetti all day, listen to music. Just blazes about in his house with a Noah beard on, and I'm like, they just until they sneak to his Batcave, which Bruce knows they're there, just ignores them though. He's like, pass, I ain't gonna help you. No, I refuse. Yeah. He's like, I know you lost your parents too, but you can still help me. He gets into an argument with 2013 Barry. He's like, well, you said you have to be a dick Barry. They're yelling at each other, which I didn't care about. We do see the Batmobile. It is nice to see the Batmobile, but again, nostalgia. That's all this film is throwing in my face is nostalgia. You know, that's the big another issue best with this movie. You're just throwing nostalgia in my face. And even Mike Keaton, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mike Keaton listens. He gets his bat suit. It is cool to see him in the bat suit again. But when he says, I'm Batman, I just felt it was weak. And when he uses lines in here like, want to get nuts, let's get nuts, it was just weak. It was just, everything he says in here at the time is nostalgia. And it's just, I didn't even feel Mike Keaton, but I'm sorry, Mike Keaton will always be my Batman. Will always be Batman, to me, the best Batman. You know, the best. The original, the best, of course. But in here, he's just throwing it in. Keaton simply got a really nice. They must have paid him real good money to be in this movie. Boy, he didn't do it for free. No. Yeah. So he explains the multiverse to them. He decides to help them, and they're gonna go get Superman. He's able to locate Clark Kal-El. They locate Kryptonian, which is, of course, cars are real. You know, she's just kind of passed out. And she doesn't have her powers because she's not in the sunlight, so she's very weak. It is cool to see Batman in action a little bit, but the ending I think was a little bad. It was decent where they're going to this bunker and we see the Batwing. Yeah, you see the Batwing, which again is cool, but yeah, it's like you got your parachutes on, guys, and they go in their parachutes. Barry has to hold him to Batman, so Batman has to carry him up there by using his bat grapple. You know, and when they save Core, they get out of there. It is cool to see Batman fight. Oh, we're in for 5 minutes. This free. Batman's like, "How much do you weigh?" I'm like, just like when he asked Vicky Vaughn, Batman, and how much do you weigh? I'm like, now you're using nostalgia lines. You know, yeah, they save Cora, and she does some good fighting though. When Sasha called her Supergirl Cora, when she gets her powers back, she like knocks some of the guys out. She fights some of them. I thought that was really cool. And she just put the Supergirl suit on, which is real cool. She's like, the humans aren't my problem, and she knows that Zod's there from watching the TV, and decides to go take him on. Barry tries to 2013 Barry explains to her, well, not all humans are bad. Some are good, some are awkward, some are this and that, whatever. So she flies away to go confront Zod. She sees Zod there, says that how Kello was like, you didn't ask me wrong. So Zod slits the guy general's throat, and there's a war going on. Sasha Cole, I thought, like I said, gave a good performance here. She does come back. Barry says that he wants to get his powers back. The future Barry that changed time wants to get his powers back. Nearly gets himself killed. Almost dies twice, from doing it. Batman's like, Bruce is like, I think this is nuts. He tells Barry earlier that that she left, and they're talking about, some of his parents, he wanted to right the wrongs, which I already understand all that. I know Batman's history. Michael Keaton did decent at scene when he's talking to Barry about why he became Batman and stuff. There are parts in this movie where Keaton is trying, but you can clearly tell he's just kind of phoning in. I thought he was. You know, but Cora picks him up, takes him up to the sky, flies him to the sky, and gets him shot by lightning. He gets his powers back. 2013 Barry takes one of the bat suits, cuts one of the ears off, the two bat ears off, makes a new Flash suit, which, makes this Flash suit right here, and it's terrible. And they, he's like, they're gonna go save the universe, and Batman, the scene where Bruce says, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts," and that just didn't work for me. Maybe people in theaters, screaming and freaking out, fans freaking out. Of course, they were like a bunch of fans having an erection over it. Like, oh my god, it's nostalgia bait, people. I mean, that line was just badly delivered. It was better used in Batman '89. You're just taking lines from the original movies, you know, and just throwing nostalgia in here. But anyway, so they decided to go fight Zod. Barry, 2013 Barry taking a picture of cars, like, oh, I got her. You know, but they also thought they didn't tell 2013. Oh, he didn't tell 2013 Barry about his mother getting murdered, and he overhears them. But anyway, they go fight. They go to fight Zod. Cora, goes to confront. Supergirl goes to confront General Zod. She's like, "Where's Killer?" He's like, "If you remember, Man Steel, he had the Codex, and Codex could rebuild Krypton that Jor-El had after he killed Jor-El." And he says, "Where?" He's like, "What?" She's like, "What did you do?" "What did you do?" No. And she's like, "The Infinite is around." She's like, "Well," he uses the heat vision, kicks his ass. They fight. The two Flashes fight. Batman's in the Batwing, shooting at Kryptonians. And Cora also has the Codex in her body as well, in her blood as well, which Zod needs. Zod is able to overpower her and stab her. Batman sacrifices himself, even though it was kind of dumb. Because the alien ship, of course, now that's the Independence Day, they have a freaking shield, and he jumps on the shield, so he sacrifices himself for nothing. You know. And Barry's like, no, we can save them. The 2013 Barry says go change time. But this time Cora gets stabbed again when he tries to, use his speed to run around him, which is honestly That movie Zoom from 2006 Academy for Superheroes with Tim Allen, when him using, to go get a concussion his brother, that was better special effects and a better shoot, by the way, I think, with Tim Allen in that film. That was a lot better done. But then you see Michael Shannon, you see him CGI face all the time, and it's terrible. But he punches Flash and stabs Core again. Batman, so he's not. He goes to the big Krypton, he puts like a bomb on and kills him, but he like stabs Batman in the throat. He's like, I gotta bring you back. He's like, you already did, and Batman does in another lame way. So you brought Michael Keaton back as Batman just to kill him. Pathetic. Yeah. He said like, we're just trying not to die. Well, apparently you did get yourself killed. Then Barry realized that, but saved him. But 2013 Barry keeps on trying. He keeps trying again and again and again and again, maybe like 5, 8 times to keep doing it. And every time Kara gets stabbed, and you see the CGI faces of Wonder Woman, of Aquaman, of like like I said, Captain Boomerang and General, of Zod and of General Zod and Supergirl and Kara. Again, it's just awful CGI, and it's like a time bubble. It's like a mountain of time they're around, kind of like a temple of time, if you will. And it's just people in their faces, and it's awful CGI. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but the corrupt speedster, well, the other two was like, no, Barry, listen to me, we saved him. I was like, you jackass, we saved him. Why aren't you helping me? They're like, I am the Flash. And apparently, the speedster that knocked him out, that evil speedster, was Barry from 2013 in the future. And you see him having a scarred face. And he's like, you just can't fix everything. Barry learns that you gotta accept what is. And her heart and her spirit she'll be with us. Barry doesn't want to accept that. And he also, I forgot to mention, Farrah, Zod's wife, he stabs her, so he becomes a killer, as well. It's just a paradox. But he's gonna have to let Nora die. And Ray's though, Dark Speedster attempts to kill Barry, but impels 2013 Barry, who sacrifices himself to Barry and walks the Dark Speedster from the timeline. So not much of a fight though, not much of a villain here, except bringing Zod back for nostalgia. Well, not nostalgia. Barry undoes the timeline and comes to terms with his mom's death, accepting that he just can't change it. He grabs the can of beans, puts it back, talks to his mom, but he's got like sunglasses on. She's like, she doesn't know Barry because he's grown up. And he's like, well, my mother, I visit her. She's not doing very well, or something. He's like, come here, she hugs him. Barry gets a nice hug, which again, I just didn't mean nothing to me. Gives her a hug. Barry's crying, but he fixes the timeline, or so he thinks. He's back home. Then he makes a minor change in the past, creating new evidence in the present day. With his dad's evidence that his dad looked up on the camera. Yet in courtroom, his dad gets set free. Then he says to I forget what he says to the media. He says spaghetti. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? And him and Barry, him and I were talking. She's talking about going on a date together. He gets contacted by Bruce. Once again, a sort of timeline change. And this time it's George Clooney's like, well, Barry, you screwed up. He's like, you're not Batman. You're not Batman. Well, Ezra Miller, you're not the Flash. And George Clooney, being there, like, really, George Clooney, you just did this for a paycheck, simply enough. Even though George Clooney, after Batman and Robin, you said the film killed the franchise. You hated Batman and Robin. You hated this movie over the freaking years, over 20 years. 28 years you've hated this film. Well, now 28 years, so Batman turned 28 in June. You hated this movie. But yeah, you come back as Bruce Wayne in a cameo. Oh, and I forgot to mention, yeah, we have cameos by the actors who have passed away that have died now, they're dead. Like George Reeves. We see a bad CGI version of him, a bad CGI version of Christopher Reeve. It's creepy. Helen Slater's there too. Adam West just running. Nicolas Cage. They don't show it. And George Clooney, even though you hated Batman and Robin over the years, you still hate the movie for ruining your career. He came back to the DC. Yeah. Again, I'd rather watch Batman and Robin, Green Lantern, and yeah, there's a lot of superhero movies I could watch over this. not just DC animated movies, but any superhero movie I could say, but I won't go through that. But anyway, that's how the movie ends. Very under the timeline. He smiles, his teeth falls out. Teeth of his falls out, and he smiles at George Clooney. And George Clooney just looks at him. You know, did George Clooney just walk around the set, or did they just call him and say, "You want to make a cameo, George?" Maybe they offered him a lot of money, and that was it. But anyway, that's the end of the movie with him seeing George Clooney as Bruce Wayne, and that's it. Let me give my final thoughts on The Flash and why I hate this film. Well, in my opinion, I think it's one of the worst superhero films ever made. I would say top five for me. I hated this film a lot. The Flash. Oh, this just is leftover. But I hated this film with a passion. I hated this movie. In the words of the late Roger Ebert, I hated this movie. Hated it. It was boring. It was terrible. Ezra Miller was terrible as a Flash. I hate the Flashpoint storyline. I hate that Michael Keaton comes back in his Batman. Yes, I do. Get mad at me. People say, "Well, Michael Keaton was great." If you're just praising this movie because Michael Keaton's in it, I'm like, why? I'm sorry, but Michael Keaton even looks bored. And he's old and washed up in here. And I'm sorry, his Batman Bruce Wayne just did not work in here for me. It's nostalgia, people, and having all these dead actors coming back as part of the roles. And yeah, the story's lame. I don't care about the physical press. Again, give me an origin story for the character. Give me a story. Yes, I know his history, but give me that. Give me a good story at least. Okay, you don't have to go with the origin, but go with something. Don't go with the Flashpoint Paradox. It's a bit too soon for that. I'm sorry, but this film rushed into production. This film movie feels rushed. The stories feel rushed. It feels like they just rushed to make this movie. This film has been in development for since the 1980s, and this is the best you can come up with. Okay, first of all, the directing and writing is horrible. Andy Muscuse and his wife, who also I think produced the movie, they did terrible. The writing's bad. Christine Hodson, who wrote Birds of Prey, which is a sexist movie, because that movie hates men. It's all about, men are all awful, men are all bad. You know, in this film, it's all nostalgia. They throw nostalgia in here just to have all these cameos, but you don't need that. You're just throwing nostalgia bait in here. You're coming with the Flashpoint Paradox story, which we don't need. Mel Keaton is back in here. Yeah, Ezra Miller. Mo Keaton, like I said, just did not do good in here. And the two Barry Allens, Ezra Miller, I can't stand him as Flash. He's the worst actor ever to play the Flash. He's the worst Flash. This is the worst Flash I've ever seen. I don't like him. He's annoying. I can never stand him since in Justice League. I don't like the suit. The suit is bad CGI. Yeah. The cinematography is nice. The film does look nice. Some parts of the film looks nice. Some of it looks like crap. Especially when you have the CGI visual effects. I don't think I am did about people that worked on this movie, the CGI, you did a terrible job. The effects, special effects, CGI, the CGI looks like shit in here. It's awful. It is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in a superhero movie. And this film was what? 220 million dollars? I'm sure there's been films that have $200 million have better CGI than this. Come on. Heck, even Batman Forever had better CGI than Batman and Robin even had better special effects than this, I thought. Batman 89, Batman Returns did too. Looking much better movies that had better visual effects in it. A lot of other superhero movies that have some great visual effects in there. You know, Not in here. This movie, the CGI is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. Having Christopher Reeve and George Reeves, who have died, by the way, and who've passed away, and Adam West have all gone. You just add them in CGI form. It's just terrible. Yeah, the editing, the action scenes are nothing special. Yeah, no slow motion because the Flash can do slow motion, but I've seen it better in Sonic the Hedgehog or X Men Days of Future Past. Now, I hate X Men Apocalypse, but I do like to see how Quicksilver saves everybody from saving everybody in the X Men from dying in a bomb or whatever. Yeah, when Havoc has to blow the mansion up and Quicksilver has to save everybody, and that song going on was more entertaining than anything in this movie. That film sucks too, I think, but that was the best scene in that movie. And Next Days of Future Past and Sonic the Hedgehog movie when Sonic is running, it's much funnier. I didn't care for the songs in here. Yeah, and the two Shazam movies are better than this. Black Adam, I think, is better than this, more entertaining because I think Zachary Levi and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, The Rock, are much better actors than Ezra Miller. All right. Well, the best thing about it to me, I like Sasha Cole as Supergirl. She was great. She's beautiful, definitely. I think she did a really good job. I like her energy of her performance. Like she's like, what did you do? You know, what did you do? You know, I like to see her energy, and she does kick ass, and she's a badass in here. They should just made this Supergirl movie a bit more interesting. Yeah, Mo Keaton, you don't belong in here. They should have just done the Batgirl movie. I would have been okay if he was in that. Or make a Batman 3, you know, him and Tim Burton make one more Batman movie. I'd have that. I'd rather have that. But it's too late now. 30 years past, probably can't do it. His Batman dies in such a lame way. He sacrifices himself to an alien ship. Michael Shannon, I think does good in here, but honestly, it seems like he just did it for a paycheck and nothing special. The fight wasn't really. It was good between him and Supergirl, but it was better, I think, him down Man of Steel. Yes, Man of Steel, the stakes were a lot higher, and the fight scene between him and Superman, I thought, was better, in my opinion. Yeah, and the pacing, the film was boring. It's it's way too long. 2 hours 24 minutes for a Flash movie. You didn't need that. I thought for a movie about the Flash, this felt like it didn't go by a fast pace. It felt like it went by a freaking slow pace. And I was bored with the movie. I had to kind of restart things, fast forward a little bit. Because I was just so bored. I'm like, the movie's giving me a headache. You know, sorry. But this movie was awful in my opinion. I would say it's one of the worst comic book films ever made. The best thing about it was Sasha Cole as Supergirl. That's everything else is nostalgia. Everything else sucked in this film. I hated this movie. In the words of Rodrigo, I'll say it again. I hated this movie. I would never watch it again. If I had to pick, make a list of one of the worst superhero movies ever made, I would put this on there. And I'd rather watch the 1990 TV series, the TV pilot movie. Yeah, you say the TV pilot was like a movie, and that would be a better movie than this. That was a better story because that was an origin story, and John Wesley Shipp was a lot better. And Grant Gustin, the pilot episode of the CW The Flash, those stories were better. His suit was much better. Grant Gustin is a much funnier Flash and a lot better, in my opinion. Yes, because I cared more about them, and I liked and him and Justice League where he's funny too, both by Marvel Rosenbaum. Or Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox. That's the Flash movie you need to see. Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox from 2013. Watch that animated film. If you have HBO Max, it's on there. It should be. Watch that over this. That's not over 2 hours long. It's like what 80, 90 something minutes movie, but it's not that long of a film, and it's a good story. And you got Reverse Flash in there. It was actually a real good film. Warner Brothers, you should get the people that worked on the DC animated movies to work on live action movies, and it would be better done. Anyway, I can't. I don't know what I can say more about the Flash, but this film sucks. Awful movie. The only best thing about Sasha Cole as Supergirl, she was great. That's it. Mel Keaton had one decent moment in the movie where he's talking with Barry. There's moments where he's trying, and a lot of moments where he's just phoning it in, just like I'm Batman, which is with hardly no energy. When he said I'm Batman in the original, he has the energy, but in here it's just yeah, I'm Batman. Mike Keaton when the guy says, "What are you?" It's like I'm Batman. More energy there. And here's yeah, I'm Batman. More like he's stoned in the movie. No. Anyway, The Flash 2023, this film, I'm giving this film a thumbs down. My rating for this film was 1 to 5 stars because the thing I liked about it was Sasha Cole. Some of the cinematography is nice as well. It is cool to see the Batwing and the Batmobile. But again, it's just nostalgia bait thrown in my face. And Mark Keane's Batsuit does look cool, but again, it's nostalgia. Batman and Batman Returns, the suit looks better. And here, the suit just looks more like it's CGI. Everything in this movie's god awful CGI and a lame story. Yeah, Flashpoint Paradox. If you want a better story about Flashpoint, watch season 3 of the Flash, the CW Flash. That does it better, in my opinion. Because at least that wasn't season 3. That was later on. Or like I said, just the Flashpoint Paradox. That did it better, in my opinion. So, guys, anyway, if you've seen the Flash from 2013, from 2023, starring Ezra Miller, what do you think of it in your opinion? Do you like it? Do you hate it? If you like this movie, why? Tell me why. And if you like it, that's cool. This is just my perspective, my opinion on it. If you love the movie, that's cool. If you enjoyed it, you saw it in theaters, you enjoyed it, not just because of Michael Keaton. But if you did love the film, that's cool. Good for you. But I'm sorry. To each his own. We agree to disagree. I hate this film. It's a stinker. So again, my rating for the film is 1 out of 5 stars, and a thumbs down for The Flash. I hated this movie. So anyway, so the next review, guys. Down here, I heard something. Now this is one movie that came out in July, and that is a DC animated film. Sorry, I gotta look this up. It is the seventh film in the DC animated universe's second phase, and this is the 52nd overall installment in the DC Universe animated original movies. Uh, Starring the voices of Jason Ackles, Darren Criss, and Sonic Kett, directed by Jeff Webster. Webster, I can't say his name right. It is a 2023 adult animated superhero film, DC animated film. The next review, Justice League War World. Yes. Which is next. Oh, and it's rated R too. It's a very adult movie, so yeah, it's not that adult. But Justice League War World, this will be next. Oh, I love the artwork here. Very good. But we'll get into that when I get into the review. So Justice League War World, that'll be my next superhero film. Then we're going to get into two movies in August. Uh, Yes, I go and show you the other reviews real quick. Next will be Teenage Mutant Turtles Mayhem, Blue Beetle. I forgot that's a DC Universe. I think so. 14. Yeah, I think that was always came before Aquaman. And then Just League RBY, Superhero Huntsman Part 2. I did review Part 1. And then the Marvels. And then probably the last DCU movie, 15th film, I'm guessing, Aquaman The Lost Kingdom. And yeah, when I start with the year 2024, I'll be starting with Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 1, which came out in January. And also, I'll be reviewing Madam Web. I'll probably a rant on that. Yeah, Madam Web, which I got on Prime Video on my TV here. But I'll buy that movie. Should be very cheap to buy. But I'm going to buy that. And yeah, and Madam Web. So those will be my first two 2020 when I get into the year 2024. So, but when I start 24, this came out in January. So, anyway, guys, stay tuned for my next review, which again will be Justice League War World coming up next. This will be next. Thanks for watching. Tell me what you think of the Flash movie 2023 starring Ezra Miller. Tell me in the comments down what do you think of it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Bye. No, I'm just gonna pretend like I want to run. Bye bye.